So, Bobby,
Nathan.
Ms. Bobby,
Yes, sir.
friend of mine, fellow podcaster. I have a meme that I would like you to look at here.
All right.
And I want you to explain to our listeners what it is that you're seeing, and I want you to read what it says on the meme.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. This is the meme explainer here. Apparently, in conversation, the meme did not get explained well enough for podcast listeners because they cannot actually physically see it. So I will explain this meme for you. It is a two-panel meme. One panel is on the left and one is on the right. On the left panel has a picture of an electric vehicle. It is a truck, and it is next to a home charging station. Above the truck, it says EV truck, $115,000. Above the charging station, it reads home charging station, $10,000. In the right panel, it reads adventure on the road, priceless. And it has a picture of a man who is hitchhiking, presumably the owner of the electric vehicle, who is stuck on the side of the road and can no longer drive because he's ran out of charge. And behind him, there is a sign that says, next charging station, 1,000 miles. That is what the meme says. Thank you. This has been the Meme Explainer. All right.
That's a long way to go.
Yeah, it's a long way to go, and no vehicle, gas or electric, is going to make it 1,000 miles without getting refueled.
No,
but it is true. So let me first kind of explain why I wanted to cover this meme. It wasn't this meme specifically that I wanted to cover, but just anti-EV memes in general.
Yeah.
So anti-EV memes have been making their rounds on especially Facebook, mostly by older people and right-wing voters. There are hundreds of these memes, and they have takes on the practicality, quality, purported convenience, and I could go on. But this one is a good example of like what you might see an average post against EVs might be.
Right.
Also, it makes multiple arguments on it against EVs. So I thought this was just a good place to start. So we'll start with the first claim in the meme. So it says that an EV truck costs $115,000.
That seems a bit high. I mean, possibly, but
Yeah. So it is true that brand new EVs have been very expensive.
Yeah.
Compared to what you could get if you're trying to be more frugal and you go with a gas powered vehicle.
right.
So like it is true that EVs, the price is it's a newer innovation. It's several years old now, but it's a newer innovation. So obviously there's going to be a higher price for that. But according to Kelley Blue Book, a brand new 2023 Ford F-150 Lightning electric truck
Okay.
has a starting price at $51,400.
Okay. That seems reasonable.
So you can, in fact, buy a new electric truck for half the price that this meme suggests.
Yeah. I bet you could spend $115,000 on one though.
Yeah. So, and that's what I'm getting to next.
Yeah.
So, someone might suggest that yes, you can get the Ford F-150 for $51,000.
Yeah.
But the model I want, the model I would rather have is $115,000. Or maybe they might say like, I want the Rivian truck, and their models do actually start at over $100,000.
Yeah, which is ridiculous. That's more than I paid for my house.
Yeah. So it's very expensive. It's very expensive.
A lot of people aren't going to be able to buy one of those.
But imagine taking that argument. So you can get an EV truck for $51,000, but the truck that you want is $115,000.
Right.
If I took that argument and applied it to gas vehicles,
Yeah.
and I said, okay, yeah, I found a vehicle I could afford, but I want a BMW. Like, you already shop frugally for, you shop hopefully within your means when you buy a car in the first place. So you already make your decision based on the price. So the fact that some of the vehicles cost $115,000 doesn't mean that EVs are all too expensive.
Right.
There's always going to be a vehicle that is more expensive than the one you have. There's always going to be a vehicle that's more expensive than the one that you can afford. Like, but I want a Lamborghini. Like the argument really does not hold up. In that terms, because there are plenty of EVs that and EV trucks specifically that are half the price, less than half the price even, than what this meme is suggesting. So someone might look at the image and say, well, this truck has an extended cab, and those types of trucks are more expensive. Maybe that's the point. If you have a family and you need a truck, you're going to need an extended cab.
Right.
But the Lightning, the $51,000 EV, is a 4-door extended cab. And also, if we're going to point out what the truck looks like in the image anyway, there is a grill, a big open grill on the front of this truck. And typically EVs don't have that because you don't have an engine in there.
That's true. Yeah.
So like some trucks are designed to kind of look like there's, to look similar to a gas powered version of it. But they don't have an open grill in the front of it.
Okay.
The Lightning EV, like I said, is an extended 4-door cab. And not only do you get the electric truck for that price, for $51,000, you also get the extended cab as well. So the price, in my opinion, is not completely out of reason, at least not in the way that the meme suggests, not to that extent.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to the home charging station. So the claim is that it costs $10,000.
Yeah.
Now, getting a home charging station when you buy an EV is an additional expense to consider if you want to plug your vehicle in at home. But is it really $10,000 to have one of those installed into your home?
I'd hope not.
Luckily, I have a study and a chart here regarding the cost of having an EV charger installed. And I want you to take a look at this chart and kind of explain what you're seeing here.
Okay, so we got, what do you call this thing, a line graph?
It's a bell chart.
Bell chart, okay. At the very tippy top, it says average reported cost is $940. We got a minimum cost of $300, a maximum cost of $2,500. And it says most homeowners spent between $545 and $1,375. So that's not bad. I mean, that seems reasonable for a heavy-duty charger, something big enough for a car.
Yep, yeah, and this is way below $10,000.
Yeah,
it's
even the most expensive one.
It's not even close. Yeah. The maximum cost listed on this chart is $2,500, which is a quarter of the price that it says it is in the meme. So the meme clearly, I know like some people will say, "Oh, it's a meme and it's exaggerating to make a point or something," but this is exaggerating to the point of absurdity. It is 10 times the average cost. Actually more than 10 times because it's only $940. But this is just to give everybody a source for this. So this is from Home Advisor. Home Advisor takes costs reported by customers, and in this particular study, this is a study based on 2,879 cost profiles. So a very wide-reaching source of information here. Yeah. And none of them paid more than $2,500. And that was extremely rare. That was on the high end, and that was the maximum of it. The average was between $545 and $1,375. Yeah. So even if you were to go by the maximum purported cost, like I said, it's a quarter of what the meme claims. And while these are slower than the level 2 chargers, you can buy one that just plugs into the wall, like into a regular outlet. I bought one for less than $200.
Really?
So in case I want to just plug it in into some outlet, you know.
Yeah.
I rarely ever do that, but because and this is another benefit of having an electric car. There are a lot of charging stations are 100% free to use. I have been charging my car for free every week, and not paying a dime for it. I mean, it's absolutely free to me. I mean, that's a benefit of having electric car. So anyway, the obviously the claim of having these car chargers at home is an absolute lie. Saying it costs $10,000 to have that done.
Yeah. So is there any kind of charger like the one you bought? Is that something you can take with you? Like, could you bring it to my house and plug in?
Yep, absolutely.
What kind of outlet do you need for that?
Just a regular plug-in outlet. Mine has a converter on it where I could plug in, those big outlets that like you'd plug a dryer into.
Okay. Yeah.
It can plug into one of those with the adapter, and it will charge a little faster on one of those. But it can just plug into a regular 3-prong outlet.
Just a one shot outlet, just like an extension cord or something. They'll just plug into the wall.
Yep.
Huh.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's long on its own even. It costs less than $200, and the thing is like 15 feet long. So,
that's not bad.
Yeah. You can get that on Amazon.
And how long does it take to charge your car with something like that?
So if you do like a level 2 charger, so like if you do a level 2 charger that you have installed in your home. Mm-hmm. If I were to run my battery down to 0, which if I'm plugging it in at home, I'm not likely going to do that unless I took a long trip or something.
Yeah.
If I ran my battery down to 0 on a level 2 charger that you have to have installed, it could take up to 6 hours to fully charge. Mm-hmm. And people might be like, well, what if I am in a hurry to go somewhere? It's like, if you have an at-home charger, you're not like, you don't run your car completely out of gas.
Yeah.
Plus, in 6 hours, like you could just sleep and wake up and you'll have a full battery. Yeah. Like your car will be fully charged. With the one that plugs into the wall, it's a lot slower than that. But that's just for giving yourself a little bit, little juice if you just, need it at some point. That's what those are for. Okay. I think if I were to run my battery down to 0 and I use a regular wall plug-in, I think it takes like 30 hours or something like that to fully charge.
So overnight you could get enough juice to go to a better charger.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Overnight I'll have at least 50 miles I can go on it, and that's from a charge of 0. Mm-hmm. So it's the claim that they're wildly expensive is entirely false. So on the right side of this Facebook boomer meme, we have a very disgruntled looking man hitchhiking near a sign that, presumably he's the owner of the electric truck. He's hitchhiking near a sign that says, next EV charging station, 1,000 miles. Now, if that's the nearest charging station, that would mean that this dude somehow drove his EV 1,000 miles to get to that point in the first place.
Right.
Because otherwise, why wouldn't he turn around and go the other direction?
Right. Yeah. It's 1,000 miles that way, but it's only 5 miles back that way.
Yeah. Exactly. And why would he be hitchhiking toward the 1,000-mile away charging station? That doesn't make much sense. So it does say, the next charging station. So the previous one could be closer, and maybe he ran out of juice, just happened to be at the most ironic spot he could be standing at,
Yeah.
But that being said, so 1,000 miles between charging stations would be absolutely prohibitive to electric vehicles. That's completely true. So I wondered, what is the average distance between charging stations in the U.S.? And for that, I have a quote from Electrify America. Electrify America installs charging stations across the U.S. And this is a quote from them. It says, "To ensure EV drivers feel empowered in their ability to travel throughout the country, Electrify America charging stations are on average about 70 miles apart."
That's not too bad.
Yeah, it's really not too bad. Now there is a disclaimer I want to put on this because that claim just on its own if you just take that at face value, you would think that every 70 miles there's going to be a charging station no matter what.
No, that's an average.
But but it says average, and also their charging stations are mainly situated around large metro areas and along highways and interstates. So the places where people are most likely to be traveling, that's where they put their charging stations.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Out. What about the rural areas?
You're screwed.
let's look at the furthest distance you'll find between charging stations. That would be in a town called Rawlins, Wyoming.
Okay.
The charging area in this town is the furthest from any other public EV charger. And in fact, Wyoming is referred to by an EV mapping site called Ceros.com as one of the last EV deserts in the U.S. So maybe you're trying to get across Wyoming. So can you guess how far, if you're at that charging station, can you guess how far you'd have to travel before you find another one?
700 miles.
86.5 miles.
That's it?
Yes.
Wow.
And that's
the farthest?
Yep. And in the contiguous United States, that is the furthest you would be from another EV station when you're already at one.
That's impressive, because I really thought there'd be bigger gaps than that.
Yeah.
Wow,
and so in order to be the furthest from any charging station, because you're right at one at that point,
right?
In order to be the furthest from any charging station, you'd have to be halfway between the two of them.
Wow, okay.
Which is 43.25 miles.
So unless you're a total idiot, you should be good.
Yeah, so unless you really fuck up, which you do have less range, like say if you're running the heat really high.
Oh yeah.
And the car has to work harder because it's fucking cold out or whatever.
Right.
So like those are problems, those are issues, but
but that's the same with a gas tank. I mean, you got to think about that kind of stuff too.
Yeah, when you run the air conditioner, it runs off it's gas powered.
Yeah, and it doesn't run as well in the cold as it does in the heat. And you got to figure that stuff out.
And that's another thing too. When it comes to starting your vehicle in the cold, EVs just turn on, and then they go. With a gas powered one, you have to hope it starts. And some of them you have to try over and over again. Newer vehicles are much better about this than the older ones have been. But sometimes you have to try over and over again to just make sure it works. Like, sometimes you have to try multiple times to get a gas powered vehicle to even start if it's too cold out.
Yeah. I had that problem last year at work.
And then you could cause serious damage to the car if it doesn't spend enough time warming up. Whereas with an EV, you could technically just press the button and go.
Right.
And I've done it a million times in way below zero weather. I've just pressed the button and went to work. It heats up so, like the heat in it goes so fast. Like whereas like with a gas vehicle, it's like it's waiting on something, and then finally it starts to get warm when you show up to work. Yeah. So it's like if anything, EV vehicles work better than gas vehicles in the cold. Now, they do have very reduced distances that they can go if it is very cold and you have to run the heat in order to be warm. So like that is a factor. But if you're in the place where you would be the absolute furthest from any public charging station, you would only be 43 miles away. Like my vehicle, my EV, the BMW has, they could go 200 miles, like on a regular charge. And that doesn't even count the range extender that I have in mind. So like, it can go a really long time, and 43 miles, unless I screwed up somehow, I shouldn't have any trouble making that.
Right. Yeah.
Now I know what some people might be thinking. It's a boomer meme. It doesn't matter. It's just exaggerating to make a point. But the problem is that when people see memes being shared like this on their Facebook feed, they consider it to at least be mostly or true or partly true. And when this meme is wildly incorrect, it is hugely wrong. And people like to share memes without looking into them further.
Yeah.
Especially if they love their gas-powered vehicle and they want to sort of put down people who like electric vehicles. And if you prefer a gas-powered vehicle, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. What's wrong is when you try to spread misinformation to convince other people to also not want electric vehicles. So, in my opinion, it actually does harm because EVs are almost certainly the biggest innovation in transportation in recent history. And I'm wary of anything that fights against innovation. Anything that wants to slow progress, I get frustrated with.
Right.
So before I get into the harm that these memes, these anti-EV memes do, I want to look at some other ones real quick. So we have an image here. So kind of explain what it says and what you're seeing.
Okay, so there's two pictures. The top one says expectation, and it's a car that looks like it's made just out of grass, and it's farting out some leaves at the end there.
Yeah,
and
to demonstrate it's green. It's a green. Yeah.
Yep. And in the bottom half of this picture, it says reality, and there's a woman out in the middle of the desert here. She's by a coal-fired power station, and she says, "Look at my new clean green car," and she's plugged it into a power line. But the power line is coming out of the coal-fired power station, so she's still getting the same.
Yeah, she's
still killing off the environment here.
Yeah.
What does it say in her car? Citylander?
Yeah, Citylander is a made-up thing that
okay.
I think it's a made-up brand that they just kind of.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's a joke because like the Outlander is made to like drive long distances in the country,
right.
Whereas the suggestion here is that you can only use an EV in the city.
Yeah, it doesn't go very far. It won't get outside the city.
Yeah, and that kind of reminds me of a scene from The Simpsons with where it was the electric car as presented by the oil companies.
Okay.
And so you get in this electric car and it's like a little ride. And it starts going and the electric car looks sad. It has like a sad face on it. And the electric car goes, "I don't go very far or very fast. If you drive me, people will think you're gay."
All right.
So we are going to just to talk about that. Like I will go on or I will move on to a little bit of the pollution concerns when it comes to electric vehicles. I will discuss that, but before I do, I want you to look at another meme here.
Okay.
Another one and this one's a little more serious.
Okay. We have another top and bottom picture. It says, "These men produce the oil for my diesel truck." And we got 4 guys standing around one of those big oil pumps. And they look like they're pretty happy. They got some thumbs up going on. They look like they're having a good time. And then the bottom says, "These children produce the lithium for your electric car." And it looks like, was this an African picture maybe? You got a bunch of kids just looking miserable with some buckets collecting stuff.
Yeah, yes.
Lithium.
That photo is from Africa.
Very negative looking picture.
Yeah, it looks really miserable. They're kind of collecting some kind of thing. They're like, it looks like there's child labor going on in the bottom photo here.
Definitely. Doesn't look like a good time.
Yeah, so now this is a real concern. There are a lot of problematic things sourcing the needs that we have for lithium batteries. And it may and some, like a lot of people are saying, like it could lead to a lot of contention because some of the biggest sources of where we can get our lithium from, some of those biggest sources are places like China and places that we have conflict with already. So like we may have to source the items to make lithium from countries that maybe don't, and from some countries that don't even have great human rights records, in fact, one of the ingredients that's required to make lithium batteries is cobalt. And the biggest source of cobalt, in fact, the one that provides like 70% of the cobalt to the world, is the Democratic Republic of Congo. Whoa. Which is, I don't need to explain that that's maybe not a good place.
No, that's a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
So how do you get lithium anyway? I have no idea how that's
Yeah.
collected.
In order to create a lithium battery, a lot of it is mining. Mining has to take place, and I'm going to go over that just a little bit as well. So, like I like to do, let's take this meme on one piece at a time. These are the men who produce the oil for my diesel truck, and it shows the adult men on the top at what looks like an oil extraction point. I read something interesting published in the Wall Street Journal on June 22nd, or June 2nd, rather, 2023. And it's called The Surprising New Source of Lithium for Batteries. This is a quote from that article. It
Asteroids.
Says, yeah, just wait for them to land because,
It's easier than getting on them when they're out in space, shooting around up there.
Yeah, so it's funny you would say that because so there's a 7-year project to collect from an asteroid.
Yeah.
And there's the robot is on its way back now.
But he might be full of adamantium.
Yeah, that would be
We
so
could
cool.
finally make a Wolverine.
If I had his healing factor, I would totally do it. I wouldn't even care if it hurt, like
I mean, you get over it.
Yeah. After a while, I mean, it
just
hurts
like 5 minutes or so. It sucks while you're doing it, but then you get healed up. You're fine.
And with enough
And then you're a superhero.
and with enough beer and cigars, you'll be good.
Yeah.
That's what he does to deal with it.
Yeah, right.
So this is from the article from the Wall Street Journal about the surprising new source of lithium for batteries. This says, quote, large troves of lithium will be needed to make the batteries for growing number of electric cars on the road. To find new supplies, companies and researchers are turning to an unexpected source, oil and gas reservoirs. These oil and gas sites harbor not only hydrocarbons, but also brine that contains metals including sodium, calcium, and some lithium. When drillers poke holes into the oil-saturated formations, the brine flows back to the surface along with molecules that end up as fuel. And companies have been prompt to discard the earthly marinade, but now that the EV battery material has become a prized commodity, lithium companies are developing technologies to remove it from this brine, and oil and gas companies are also taking a second look. So, these men that get your oil for your combustion vehicle might be standing on a site where they will be extracting lithium for electric car batteries in the future. And the company for which they work might be the same entity extracting the lithium from that field. So, if the value of those workers is important to you, they might have a more likely future getting lithium out of those same places.
Cool.
But there is a real concern brought up by this meme. And that is the child labor aspect.
Yeah.
It is in fact true that cobalt sources used for lithium batteries are often sourced by child labor. And the horror does not end there. So the left is often accused of ignoring this fact by right-wing outlets, and I'll address that in a moment. But first, I want to source some information on child labor and explain how horrific it actually is.
Yeah.
So according to the U.S. Department of Labor, the Democratic Republic of Congo is the main source of cobalt. And in fact, 70% of cobalt comes from that country, which has an awful track record for human rights in general. But forced labor and child labor are serious problems in that country. Not all of the cobalt is coming from child labor, but even if it's just a little bit, that's a huge problem.
Yeah.
Most of the larger industrial sources of cobalt have been found to not be using child labor. But 15 to 30% here comes from small scale mines, and child labor is often found in these mines. These are not safe places to work, even for adults.
Mines in general are dangerous.
Yeah, and in fact, children have been found to have been buried alive and died in mine collapses there.
Yeah.
So cobalt from these sources are used in electric vehicles. And the meme has is absolutely right to point that out. That is something to be concerned about.
Mm-hmm.
But there are three main problems with this. Number one is the most obvious, and that is that burning more fossil fuels is not only risking the future of our planet for children, but is having consequences on children currently. Now, we will kind of gloss over the fact that it has been agreed upon by most scientists that the frequency of hurricanes and storms that kill a lot of people, including children, right now is exacerbated by human-caused climate change. We'll have to ignore that because a lot of the people who share this kind of stuff ignore climate change anyway.
Yeah.
So let me read you a quote from Harvard University. Research from Harvard University, in collaboration with the University of Birmingham, the University of Leicester, and the University College of London, found more than 8 million people died in 2018 from fossil fuel pollution, significantly higher than previous research suggested, meaning that air pollution from burning fossil fuels like coal and diesel was responsible for about 1 in 5 deaths worldwide. Now, from the National Institute of Health. Fine particles, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, known as PAHs, sulfur and nitrogen oxides, benzene and mercury emitted by coal-burning power plants and diesel and gasoline-powered vehicles have been variously linked to infant mortality, lower birth rate, deficits in lung function, respiratory symptoms, childhood asthma, developmental disorders, and cancer. So why is it that suddenly now people care about the safety of children? Why is it that the right suddenly now wants to share things because they care so much about the safety of kids? When there has been a lot of research, and the sources here come from 1992, 2004, 2006, 2003, 2004, 2006 again, and 1997 and 2005. So the research has shown this for a very long time from many sources, and you never said anything about your gas-powered vehicles sending crap into the air that are causing these health problems. But now that you found something that electric vehicles are admittedly a very big problem in, now you care about the safety of children.
Yeah.
It's hypocritical to say the least. And the thing is, like, child labor has been a huge problem long before cobalt became a hot commodity. According to the Department of Labor, one of the top causes of child labor is palm oil, used in a lot of junk foods and in cooking. I didn't see the right go up in arms about that, yet now they care about child labor when it comes to electric vehicles. If that were really the issue and not some attempt at like a gotcha to the left, they would have been vocal about child labor a long time ago. And they don't want to fight against clothing often made by using child labor. They don't want to fight against palm oil. They want to go viral by pointing out a product itself that has been politicized.
Right.
Because they think that an electric vehicle is a left-wing kind of thing. They want to point it out when it's been a problem forever. So the goal should not be to stop making electric vehicles. The goal should be to stop child labor. Yet the left, like myself, and yes, clearly I'm left-leaning, have been accused of ignoring child labor. Yet, I kid you not, before EVs became the political driven argument that it is today, I was being very vocal about ending child labor. And this is not a joke, this is absolutely true. I got somebody inciting a right-wing talking point that supported child labor.
Wow.
Yeah. So this might be a bit of a fringe argument, but it is worth explaining what their logic was. Essentially, he said that families in some poorer countries in some poorer parts of less wealthy countries cannot make ends meet on just the parents' income, and that child labor in these areas are an important source of income for them. So at first, this seems like first off, like child labor is terrible.
Yeah.
But at first, this seems almost like an argument like, oh, maybe if they're going to starve to death, that the kid doesn't work. But I brought this up to a professor of sociology named William Staudenmeier, and he said to me that the solution is to pay the parent $1 a day rather than 50 cents or $2 a day instead of $1.
Wow, that's all they're making? No wonder they're starving.
They're
to
making
death.
next to nothing. That's why the kids are having to work as well. If they were paid just slightly more, and you don't even have to pay them that much for them to feed themselves, because like they're already making themselves live on meager ends. You could double their pay, and it probably wouldn't have a huge impact at all on your companies, on whatever who's using child labor.
Yeah, but then these people could live.
Yeah, and like so, I do care about child labor, and I'm very vocal about it and have been. If you were to poll the anti-child labor people, historically, people on the right have been the first to support having child labor, even in the United States, and have in fact brought it back. Or have fought back. Sorry, they have in fact fought back against even regulations regarding children in the workplace. So if you want to read in detail about this history, you just have to go to the History of Child Labor in the United States on BLS.org. If you want to argue that no, it's the left who is ignoring child labor today, rather than going back and reading the history of it, you can make that claim. But supporting the use of EVs doesn't mean automatically that the left is ignoring child labor. I don't doubt that there are a lot of politicians ignoring it for self-interest reasons, but politicians on the right ignore problems with fossil fuels. They also ignore child labor, and they even support wars that kill many people, including children, that are essentially just a facade to get more fossil fuels. Mm-hmm. So the government has corrupt and awful people on, as Trump might put it, both sides. But this is not a good argument against EVs. What we should be fighting against is child labor itself. It should not be used as a source of cobalt to make jeans for your goddamn potato chips. If child labor is the issue, to give up on EVs, then have fun saying goodbye to your fucking jeans, your boots, and your junk foods.
I don't think I can do that. I like my junk food.
Yeah. I like being clothed too, you know. But I'd rather those clothes be made in an ethical way. And EVs are not any different.
Right.
Just because that we have found that there is a major issue with child labor in terms of sourcing cobalt, that does not mean that we need to give up on EVs any more than it means that we need to stop using palm oil. We need to find a way to ethically source it, you know, and if that means not getting it from the sources that we're getting it from, and having to slow production on certain things until they find the incentive to actually produce it ethically so we start buying it again, if that's what it has to take, then I think that's worth it. Mm-hmm. Because child labor should not be used for anything. They're kids. You know?
They should be out playing and, you know, being children.
Yeah.
Not working themselves to death.
Yes, exactly.
Hoping to retire at the age of 12. Yeah.
Now, I did mention that the left is often accused of being silent on child labor. And I really only mentioned the government in general and an anecdotal experience I had being opposed by somebody who supported child labor. So while researching these episodes, I came across an article. This article is from a website called lifepowered.org. And it says, everything that requires cobalt battery requires something even dirtier, child labor. Now, my eyebrow raised immediately when I read this title. Why does it read that cobalt batteries require child labor? Why would anything require child labor?
Yeah.
Unless there's a planet of just children that I don't know about. I have never heard a good argument for producing anything that should require child labor. So I'll read the opening paragraph of this article.
Okay.
For years, news outlets, including the New York Times, have been covering the abundance of cobalt in the Congo. In 2016, Washington Post published a story about the reality of that Congolese children are mining for the cobalt that powers our electronics. They have fallen silent more recently, however, because cobalt is necessary for electric vehicles, which is part of the left's Green New Deal. Clearly very biased language here.
Yeah.
Which I mean, they're making critiques of the left, which is great. I don't think anything or anybody should be above being criticized. But this is also not accurate. In fact, on August 5th of this year, the Washington Post, one of those directly accused in this article.
Yeah.
The Washington Post was one of the people that were accused of being silent about child labor, and the reason given was that it's part of the left's Green New Deal, and therefore left-wing people must be being silent on child labor because they want to support their left-wing agendas. The problem with that is the article that was posted on August 5th, and this was very critical of the artisanal or small-scale cobalt mines in the Congo. And this was explaining what is wrong with them today. So, like, even if child labor weren't involved, they explained that this hasn't been safe for adults. And this is how the article reads. Unsafe artisanal mining persists, as does child labor. So not only were they critical of the sourcing of cobalt, they actually directly address child labor in the article. Mm-hmm. Meaning that this lifepowered.org just straight up lied. So nobody is ignoring the child labor issue. I mean, outside of like some politicians who maybe don't think it's a good talking point. And I do think that the left is not doing enough, and that left-wing politicians are not taking action against this issue like they should be. But to suggest that EVs are the problem is wrong. Child labor is the issue. And what is being produced is not the thing that we should focus on. We should focus on how it's produced and how we can produce it without the need for child labor. You know, like how can we get the things we need without child labor? That's what we should be focusing on. Yeah. Not ending innovation because you found some child labor and you think it's a great talking point against the left. So, what do you think so far?
I don't know. It sounds like we still got a little ways to go.
Oh yeah, absolutely we do. 100%. Because like child labor is still a huge issue, and it is a huge issue in producing a lot of things, not just cobalt.
It always will be. I mean,
I wish that weren't true, but like we should fight against it and find ways to end child labor. But the answer isn't to stop all the things that have been produced by child labor. You know, the fight should be to produce materials without using child labor.
That would be good.
So there are also, just to get past the child labor thing, mm-hmm. I wanted to talk about that for quite a while because it is very important.
Yeah.
It's an important issue, but the right has been silent on it just as much as the left has. And in fact, I was able to find more left-wing publications coming out against child labor than I could find anything from the right until now that they're trying to fight back against the Green New Deal. But there are also a lot of memes that suggest that EVs are wimpy somehow. I saw a video of someone in a Mustang flying past a person driving an EV, and the caption read, "When you fly by an EV on the road." And the problem is that the person was being recorded by the person in the EV, probably because they wanted to get footage of this guy recklessly driving.
Probably, yeah.
But
This guy's gonna kill somebody.
But to kind of talk about that a little bit, for an automatic V6 Ford Mustang, the 0 to 60 was reported to be 5.6 seconds to 6.1 seconds. That's pretty fucking fast.
Yeah,
that's really
quick.
fast.
Faster than I need.
Oh yeah, way faster than anybody needs. But if you want to have fun in a vehicle, I mean, accelerating fast is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
My BMW can do the same thing as 6.6 seconds.
So not a big difference.
Not a big difference.
It's pretty much the same numbers.
So like, if you compare my EV or a lot of EVs to the average gas vehicle, not a V6 Mustang, most of them I could blow out of the water because you have to wait for the combustion to take place, and you have to wait for everything to communicate with each other, and then go. Like some gas vehicles are extremely fast, like the Mustang, but a lot of them take a while to start to accelerate. And mine accelerates so quickly and so easily that I find myself leaving everyone several car lengths behind when the light turns green. And it's because it drives so smoothly that I don't realize I'm going, I don't speed, but like I get to the speed limit very quickly.
Right. Yeah.
But anyway, so now that I got to talk a little bit about my car and calm down after the child labor thing, because it infuriates me. But now I've had a chance to calm down a little bit. We're going to take a look at a meme that I thought was hilarious and made me chuckle.
Okay. All
right, so explain what this meme shows here.
Oh dear. Well, right at the top it says Tesla crash. I see what made you laugh. That's pretty good. Okay, so we have the Tesla on its side. It's a white, fancy, kind of sporty looking car. And then they go around the car and they show the bottom of the car, and it's got 4 giant Duracell batteries powering it. That's pretty funny.
I love that. That's a good meme. That's a good meme. That's very
That's
funny.
a good one. Totally inaccurate, but funny.
Yeah.
Well, not totally. I mean, it's got a lot of batteries in there.
It does. Yeah, the whole bottom of it is batteries,
Is that
but
where they are in the
they
bottom?
just don't look like giant regular Duracell batteries.
That's kind of funny, though.
I
I mean, they should. If they could make it work, I would. That would
It's
be funny.
hilarious. That's hilarious. I would put a decal on the bottom of my car just to look like that. So, when it comes to the environment, so EVs are better for the environment, not just because they are not constantly exhausting pollutants while you drive them, but because they take less energy and materials in production. Because you're not making as many parts, and also because when you are driving them, they take less energy to drive because you're not lugging around a tank of gas and an engine everywhere you go.
Yeah.
So discouraging the use of EVs with lies like this is bad for the world that we live in. Now, you don't have to believe in climate change to know pollutants are bad for us. The exhaust from gas vehicles are literally used for suicide. People kill themselves in minutes just by running one of those in a garage.
True.
So
people have even done it on accident. You don't even realize.
That's true. Yeah.
You come home, you close the door, you're goofing around in your car, you forget to shut it off,
or you're
dead.
exhausted and you're just sitting there and you just lay your head, down, and then suddenly
and then you die.
You die. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there is also another reason why spreading misinformation that encourages EV purchases does harm, and I want to use a quote from this is an alternative energy review site called Solar Reviews to demonstrate this point. It says, quote, "The average distance between charging stations is currently hovering around 70 miles and will continue to get smaller as newer charging stations are being built to match increases in electric car purchases." So this information was last updated on August 8th, 2021. So the average distance is probably smaller today. It's almost certainly much smaller today. But what I want to focus on is the last part of this quote. The distances will continue to get smaller as new charging stations are being built to match the increase in electric car purchases. So when you spread crap like this meme, you are literally exacerbating the thing that you're complaining about. You have in there the complaint that the charging stations are too far apart, and you exaggerate it to absolute ludicrous levels. And when you do this, you would discourage people from buying EVs if they believe your argument or if they think it's even close to being true. And you exacerbate and slow down the innovation that would be to make those distances smaller between EV charging stations.
Right.
So if you prefer a gas vehicle, that's fine. Like if you prefer your gas vehicles, that's absolutely understandable. There are benefits to having a gas vehicle over an electric one. There's benefits to having an electric one over a gas one. I personally prefer electric. That's why I drive an electric car. But you could just prefer a gas vehicle, and that's absolutely fine. And you could post your reasonings all about that. But when you lie about EVs like this, you are trying to fuck all of us over. So fuck you. And your dumb meme.
One last question. Is this going to be any easier to make them fly than the gas ones? Because we haven't got those flying cars yet.
Oh, okay, so I will say, they're way lighter than gas cars.
Okay, well that's a step in the right direction.
And they have electric planes already.
And I mean, they have flying cars. It's a thing.
Well, okay,
it's not great.
They have
it's possible,
but they have quote a flying SUV. It's just a little plane.
Yeah, I mean, that's all it is.
I want to see a fucking hover. That's what I want to see a hover like we're in the year 3000. Like that's what I want to see.
They got wings you gotta like put on them like in your garage or whatever, and you take them off so you can drive it down the road and be like, it's cumbersome, but technically it's a flying car.
No, I don't know.
I mean, it's
not
a car.
It's not the flying car we wanted.
No, but yeah, I want a flying car. I want that to happen.
Yeah. So
then we can deal with, the FAA on our way to work, and,
that's
you gotta
right.
be on your right level or whatever, so you can go north instead of south. I don't know. Well, that's going to be way more complicated, but I still want to do it.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
That'd be really cool.
Heck with the rules. I'll just go up above. You get high enough, there's not going to be anybody on that level.
That's right. Eventually you become a space vehicle, and the FAA can't stop you.
Yeah.
You're outside their jurisdiction.
It'd be like the car from Fast and Furious 9. They duct taped all their spacesuits together and went to space.
Yeah, I mean, you could always be like the car from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang too, and just
there you go. Yeah, when are we gonna make flubber?
Yeah. Yeah, where's that?
Yeah, I want some rubber that just keeps bouncing higher and higher.
Yeah, if you left-wing people care so much about science, why don't we have flubber yet?
Yeah, get on that, would you?
Yeah. Thank you guys all so much for listening. Sorry, we record that. We've recorded way too many episodes of that Let's Play channel, but we're still going to because I love doing them.
Yeah, absolutely.
But thank you guys all so much for listening. If you would like to submit a meme, or if you just want to follow us, you can follow us at meminglesspod on x.com. It's so stupid name. It's such a stupid name.
It's short though. It's easy to remember. Everybody can spell it.
It's short, but it's also something a child in the 90s would come up with.
Yeah, and it would have been fucking cool.
If you're a child in the 90s, it's run its course at this point.
Yeah, well, I mean, who is it, Elon Musk that's got it now? Wasn't he a child in the 90s?
No, he was a grown man in the 90s.
Was he? How old is that guy?
Yeah, he's pretty old. In fact, he bought he bought Tesla or SpaceX in like 2001.
Okay.
So
okay.
Yeah, he's been a grown man for a long time.
Yeah.
He just doesn't act like it.
Oh, that's all right. Yeah. Neither do I.
No, I don't either. Yeah. But I'm not a dick, at least.
I don't know. Have you asked everybody?
No, but I did literally say "fuck you" to the person who's shared this meme. So that's I guess I am a dick sometimes. But anyway, thank you guys for listening. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.